Most men don't fail in relationships because they lack effort. They fail because they misunderstand attraction. They give more when respect fades. They explain more when desire weakens. They sacrifice more when distance appears. And they are shocked when everything collapses anyway. This video is not about blaming women. It's about exposing the patterns men refuse to see. Because what destroys attraction is rarely cruelty or neglect. It is overgiving without self-respect. Here, we'll break down 10 psychological realities most men encounter only after loss, confusion, and regret. If you've ever wondered why doing everything right still led to being taken for granted, stay with me. What you're about to hear isn't comfortable. But it may finally explain what went wrong, and how to never lose yourself in love again. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where lessons about love will help you better understand this complex emotion. In today's video, we will learn together about top 10 weaknesses of women that every man should know. These are things that can change the way you perceive love in life. Be prepared because the secrets and insights you are about to discover may make you look back at yourself and the relationships around you. Before starting, find a quiet space, put on your headphones and relax. Let your mind completely immerse in these shares and enjoy every wonderful moment. Are you ready to discover new things about love? Let's start this journey with us right now. Weakness number 1, emotions outweigh logic, and most men lose by arguing facts. One of the first lessons I learned the hard way is this. You cannot win a woman's heart by winning an argument. Most men are trained to believe that truth, logic, and explanation are enough. So when conflict appears, they explain harder. They bring facts. They justify intentions. They try to be reasonable. And slowly, almost invisibly, they lose ground. Because for most women, decisions are not made in the courtroom of logic. They are made in the climate of emotion. This is not a flaw. It is a biological and psychological reality. A woman may say she wants logic, clarity, and explanations, but what actually guides her attraction is how she feels in your presence, especially under pressure. Stoicism teaches us not to resent reality, but to understand it. Why logic fails where emotion leads. When a woman is emotional, she is not confused. She is processing. And when a man responds to her emotional state with cold logic, something breaks. She doesn't hear. I'm trying to solve the problem. She feels. He doesn't see me. He doesn't get me. He's disconnected. At that moment, even if you are right, you are losing. A Stoic man understands that rightness is irrelevant without resonance. The fatal mistake men keep making. Here's what inexperienced men do. They argue to correct her feelings. They say, that doesn't make sense. You're overreacting. Logically, that's not true. Every one of these statements tells her nervous system the same thing. You are not safe to feel here. And once emotional safety disappears, attraction begins to erode. Not loudly. Quietly. Irreversibly. What the Stoic man does instead. A Stoic man does not suppress logic. He simply does not weaponize it against emotion. He understands a core truth. Emotion must be acknowledged before it can dissolve. So he remains calm. Grounded. Present. He does not rush to fix. He does not rush to explain. He listens without surrendering his center. He might say little. Or nothing at all. Because presence regulates emotion better than arguments ever will. Why this is a weakness men must understand. When emotion leads, it can override consistency, promises, and even past experiences. A woman may feel distant despite nothing changing. Lose attraction without a clear reason. Change her mind without contradiction in her eyes. Men call this irrational. Stoics call it human. The weakness is not emotion itself. The weakness is emotional dominance without grounding. And the man who understands this does not fight it. He navigates it. The Stoic advantage. When you stop arguing emotions and start mastering your own, something shifts. Your calm becomes the anchor. Your stability becomes the reference point. Your silence carries more weight than your words. A woman feels. He's steady. He's not reactive. He's not shaken. And that steadiness, far more than logic, creates trust and attraction. The lesson. Do not try to outthink emotion. Do not try to defeat it. Do not try to correct it. Outgrow it. Because the man who can remain composed while emotion rises is the man who will never need to argue for his value. Weakness number 2, emotional safety matters more than promises. One of the most misunderstood truths about women is this. They don't attach to what you promise. They attach to how safe they feel around you. Men love promises. Men build futures with words. Men believe commitment is spoken into existence. Women, however, build attachment through emotional atmosphere. I learned this the hard way. I kept my word. I showed up. I planned ahead. I offered certainty. And still, something faded. Because promises do not calm the nervous system. Presence does. Why security is felt, not explained. A man can say all the right things. I'm not going anywhere. You can trust me. I'm serious about you. But if his tone is anxious, reactive, or unstable, those words carry no weight. Women don't measure safety intellectually. They measure it somatically. Their body asks. Do I relax around him? Or do I brace? Do I feel pressure? Or do I feel grounded? If your presence creates tension, no promise can override it. Stoicism teaches us to understand what is, not what should be. And what is true is this. A calm man feels safer than a committed man who lacks control. The hidden weakness. When emotional safety becomes the primary driver, decisions can change quickly. A woman may leave a good man not because he failed morally, but because his presence felt heavy. Too many questions. Too much reassurance. Too much emotional volatility. Men call this unfair. Stoics call it cause and effect. Why men overprovide and still lose. When a man senses emotional distance, he often responds by giving more. More texts. More affection. More explanations. More availability. But overproviding increases pressure. And pressure signals insecurity. A Stoic man understands. The more grounded you are, the less you need to convince. What emotional safety actually looks like. It is not perfection. It is not emotional silence. It is emotional regulation. A Stoic man does not panic during conflict. Does not chase reassurance. Does not collapse under uncertainty. Does not take emotions personally. His calm becomes contagious. And that calm is interpreted as strength. Why this becomes a weakness? When emotional safety dominates attachment, it can override logic. A woman may leave someone, on paper, perfect. Stay with someone flawed but steady. Return to a man who makes her feel anchored. Men struggle with this because it feels invisible. But Stoicism teaches. Invisible forces are often the strongest. The Stoic advantage. Instead of trying to create security through control, a Stoic man creates it through self-command. He is consistent. He is measured. He is slow to react. He is difficult to shake. Not because he doesn't care, but because he has mastered himself. And self-mastery creates safety. The lesson. Do not promise her the future. Be the kind of man whose presence makes the present feel stable. Because women don't stay for guarantees. They stay for how they feel when the world presses in. And the man who can offer emotional safety, without losing himself, will never need to beg for attachment. Weakness number 3, emotional fluctuation can override consistency. One of the hardest truths for men to accept is this. Consistency does not guarantee continuity. A man can be steady for months. Reliable. Present. Committed. And still, one emotional shift can change everything. Men experience this as betrayal. Stoics experience it as emotional dynamics. Why feelings trump history? Men tend to think linearly. Past effort should earn future security. Women experience relationships more in the present moment. What matters most is not what you did last year, but how she feels now. If the emotional tone changes, if excitement fades, tension disappears, or safety turns into boredom, the past loses its leverage. This is not deception. It is emotional prioritization. Stoicism teaches us. The present state of the soul outweighs memory. The illusion of, we were fine yesterday. Many men are blindsided by sudden shifts. She was happy last week. She said she loved me yesterday. We just planned a future. And today, distance. What changed was not logic. What changed was feeling. Attraction is not stored like savings. It must be alive. Why this becomes a vulnerability. When emotions lead decisions, clarity can disappear. A woman may doubt a relationship without a concrete reason. Feel off without explanation. Reinterpret past events through a new emotional lens. Men demand reasons. Women search for alignment. The gap between those two creates confusion. The Stoic error men must avoid. The worst response to emotional fluctuation is panic. Men try to lock things down. Seek reassurance. Demand certainty. Fix the feeling. This accelerates loss. A Stoic man understands. You cannot stabilize emotion by controlling it. Control signals fear. Fear weakens attraction. What the Stoic man does instead. He remains centered. He does not argue with feelings. He does not chase clarity. He does not overreact. He watches behavior, not words. He maintains his routines. He preserves his standards. By not collapsing, he allows space for emotion to settle. Sometimes it returns. Sometimes it doesn't. Either outcome reveals truth. Why stability is more attractive than certainty. Certainty feels rigid. Stability feels safe. A Stoic man does not force permanence. He embodies presence. And presence, when calm and grounded, creates the conditions for emotion to return naturally. The deeper lesson. This weakness teaches men an uncomfortable lesson. You cannot secure love through history alone. You secure it by remaining attractive in the present. That means growth, purpose, self-respect, emotional discipline. The Stoic advantage. When you accept emotional fluctuation as natural, you stop being controlled by it. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop chasing stability externally. You stop fearing shifts you cannot command. And that inner stability often becomes the very thing that restores attraction. The lesson. Do not rely on yesterday's connection. Do not panic over today's distance. Do not beg for tomorrow's certainty. Remain the man whose presence is solid now. Because the man who can stay grounded while emotions change is the only man who never loses himself in the process. Love is not always about brilliant moments, but often about patience, listening and accompanying in every small step. It is those simple things that nurture a lasting bond. That is also the reason why I believe that every experience in love is an opportunity for us to grow and become stronger. If you feel this, please click like as a way to spread positivity to more people. And if this is your first time visiting our channel, click subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any lessons. I also look forward to hearing your thoughts. What is the smallest but most meaningful thing you have ever realized in love? Leave a comment below, maybe your answer will become a source of inspiration for others. Now, let's continue our journey to explore deeper perspectives right away. Weakness number 4, women respond to behavior, not words. One of the most expensive mistakes men make is believing that words carry the most weight. They don't. Behavior does. I've watched men talk their way out of attraction while saying all the right things. And I've watched other men say very little, yet hold attention effortlessly. The difference was never intention. It was congruence. Why words lose power over time? Words are easy to produce. Behavior is costly. When a man says, "I care about you. I'm serious. I won't do that again," but his behavior contradicts his words, even slightly, the nervous system notices. Not consciously. Instinctively. A woman may still listen. She may still nod. She may still stay. But trust begins to fracture. Stoicism teaches us. Reality is revealed through action, not declaration. The illusion of verbal reassurance. Men often use words to repair what behavior damaged. They explain. They promise. They reassure. But reassurance without behavioral change feels hollow. And repetition kills credibility. A Stoic man understands. The more you have to explain yourself, the less your behavior is speaking for you. Why this becomes a vulnerability. When women prioritize behavior over words, attraction can shift suddenly. A man may say, "I'm committed." But if he becomes reactive, loses discipline, abandons his routines, centers his life around her, his behavior tells a different story. I have lost my frame. And frame loss is felt immediately. What women actually observe. Not your speeches. Not your intentions. Not your justifications. They observe how you handle stress. How you treat boundaries. How you react when challenged. How consistent you are without supervision. This observation is constant and largely unconscious. Stoics call this judgment by pattern. The Stoic man's advantage. A Stoic man does not persuade. He demonstrates. He does not say he is calm. He remains calm. He does not say he has standards. He enforces them quietly. He does not say he is independent. His life shows it. This alignment creates trust without effort. Why silence often wins. Silence paired with strong behavior is intimidating in the best way. It removes ambiguity. It removes noise. It removes manipulation. A man who acts decisively needs no verbal defense. And decisiveness is magnetic. The trap men must avoid. When a man relies on words, he becomes performative. He tries to manage perception instead of reality. Stoicism rejects this. A Stoic man improves the source, not the signal. The lesson. Stop trying to be understood. Start being unmistakable. Because words are negotiable. Behavior is final. And the man whose behavior is aligned with his values never has to convince anyone of who he is. Weakness number 5, too much certainty kills curiosity. One of the strangest truths about attraction is this. What feels reassuring to men often feels suffocating to women. Men crave certainty, clarity, defined outcomes. So when they feel interest, they rush to remove ambiguity. They explain intentions. They declare commitment early. They reveal everything. They make themselves predictable. And slowly, curiosity fades. Not because certainty is bad, but because certainty given too early removes tension. Why curiosity fuels attraction? Attraction lives in anticipation. Not confusion. Not anxiety. But unresolved understanding. A woman is drawn to what she hasn't fully mapped yet. When a man reveals everything, his plans, his availability, his emotions, his devotion, there is nothing left to explore. Stoicism teaches. Depth revealed slowly carries more gravity than depth revealed all at once. The male instinct to lock things down. When men sense uncertainty, they move to control it. They think, if she knows where I stand, she'll feel safe. But safety without intrigue becomes flat. A Stoic man understands. Safety must coexist with mystery. Not secrecy. Not games. But a life that is full outside the relationship. Why this becomes a vulnerability. When women respond strongly to curiosity, they may lose interest when everything becomes known. A man may be emotionally available at all times. Share every thought. Cancel his own priorities. Center her as the main source of meaning. This removes polarity. And without polarity, attraction declines, even if affection remains. What men get wrong about mystery. Mystery is not silence. It is self-possession. A Stoic man does not withhold to provoke. He simply does not overexpose himself to soothe anxiety. He does not narrate his life. He lives it. And that life creates natural intrigue. Why predictability feels heavy. Predictability signals dependence. If your schedule revolves around her, your mood reacts to her messages. Your sense of direction depends on her approval. Then curiosity turns into pressure. And pressure repels. Stoicism rejects dependency. The Stoic way of creating attraction. A Stoic man has goals that do not require validation. Has routines that remain intact. Has silence that is comfortable. Has presence without urgency. He does not rush outcomes. He allows connection to unfold. This patience is rare. And rarity attracts. The deeper lesson. Do not remove uncertainty prematurely. Not because women enjoy confusion, but because curiosity is the engine of desire. Certainty should arrive after attraction is stable, not before. The lesson. Stop trying to be fully known. Start being deeply grounded. Because a man who is complete within himself will always have layers worth discovering. And curiosity, once ignited, keeps attraction alive far longer than reassurance ever could. Weakness number 6, women bond to feeling special, not to how much you sacrifice. This is one of the most painful lessons men learn too late. Women do not bond to sacrifice. They bond to how you make them feel about themselves. Men are taught that love is proven through effort. Through endurance. Through giving more when things get difficult. So they sacrifice time. They sacrifice priorities. They sacrifice themselves. And they expect appreciation. What they often receive instead is distance. Why sacrifice does not create attraction. Sacrifice signals one thing above all else. You have less going on than she does. Not because you don't care, but because you are willing to shrink your world for her. And shrinking is not attractive. Stoicism teaches us, what you give up too easily loses value. A man who abandons his mission, his discipline, or his direction for love communicates scarcity, even if unintentionally. What feeling special really means. Feeling special is not about being pedestalized. It is about being chosen, selectively. A woman feels special when your attention is intentional, not constant. Your time is offered, not surrendered. Your affection feels earned, not automatic. Specialness requires contrast. If everyone receives your best, no one feels chosen. The fatal error of over-sacrifice. Men often sacrifice hoping to secure attachment. They think, if I give more, she'll stay. But sacrifice born from fear creates obligation, not desire. Obligation kills attraction. A Stoic man never sacrifices his center to keep someone close. Why this becomes a vulnerability. When women bond to feeling special, they may lose interest in men who give endlessly. Endless giving removes selection. And without selection, specialness dies. This is not cruelty. It is psychology. Stoicism asks us to face reality without resentment. What the Stoic man does differently. He chooses deliberately. He does not overextend. He does not overpromise. He does not over-sacrifice. When he gives, it is meaningful because it is limited. His life remains full. His priorities remain intact. His presence remains grounded. That containment creates value. Why self-respect is the foundation. A man who respects himself does not attempt to buy affection. He allows his value to be experienced. And value is felt, not negotiated. The deeper lesson. Stop trying to prove love through loss. Love is not proven by how much you endure. It is proven by how clearly you choose. The lesson. Do not sacrifice yourself to make her feel special. Let her feel special because she is chosen by a man who refuses to disappear. That kind of choice carries weight. And weight, always, creates attachment. At this point, you may have seen yourself in the stories above, sometimes weak, sometimes strong, and sometimes not knowing what to do in love. But it is those moments that make us real and worthy of respect. If you feel the same, please click like to let me know you are here, accompanying me. And if you haven't clicked subscribe yet, don't hesitate, because every day I will share more stories and new lessons, to help you have a calmer view of love. Now, let's move on to the final part, where we will touch on deeper things. Weakness number 7, women test a man's strength before they trust him. This truth is uncomfortable for many men, so they deny it. Women test men. Not because they want to hurt them. Not because they enjoy drama. But because trust is not given, it is verified. I used to think tests were signs of immaturity. I was wrong. They are signs of evaluation. What these tests really are. Tests are rarely direct. They come disguised as emotional pushback, boundary pressure, sudden coldness, disagreement, provocation, inconsistency. The question underneath is always the same. Does this man remain himself when challenged? Stoicism teaches us to observe behavior, not complain about it. Why men fail these tests? Most men fail tests in one of two ways. They appease. They bend. They over-explain. They retreat from their boundaries. They try to restore harmony at the cost of self-respect. They explode. They get defensive. They argue. They demand fairness. They take it personally. Both responses signal the same thing. Lack of emotional command. Why emotional control equals strength. A Stoic man understands. Strength is not domination. Strength is non-reactivity. When tested, he does not rush to correct. He does not rush to please. He does not rush to punish. He stays centered. That calm communicates. I am not shaken. I do not fear disagreement. I am stable. And stability is what trust is built on. Why these tests feel unfair to men. Men want clear rules. Clear expectations. Clear commitments. But attraction is not contractual. Trust is felt. Women need to see how you behave under friction, because friction reveals truth. A man who collapses under pressure cannot be trusted with responsibility. Not emotionally. Not relationally. Stoicism does not complain about reality. It adapts to it. The Stoic response to tests. A Stoic man maintains boundaries without aggression. Responds slowly, not reactively. Does not seek approval. Does not fear losing connection. He understands. Passing the test is not about winning, it is about remaining aligned. Sometimes the relationship ends. Sometimes it deepens. Either outcome is clarity. Why passing tests increases attraction. When a woman sees that. You don't chase when she pulls away. You don't rage when challenged. You don't abandon yourself under stress. Something shifts. She feels. This man is solid. This man is safe. This man is not dependent on my approval. And that independence invites trust. The deeper lesson. Tests are not obstacles. They are filters. They filter men who need validation. From men who are anchored in themselves. The lesson. Do not fear being tested. Do not resent it. Do not perform for it. Remain yourself. Because the man who cannot be moved by pressure is the man a woman can finally relax around. And relaxation, more than charm, is what creates lasting connection. Weakness number 8, being chosen matters more than being catered to. This is where many men misunderstand effort. They believe that if they cater enough, adjust enough, please enough, give enough, a woman will feel valued. But what she actually feels is central. And centrality kills attraction. Why catering feels good to men, but flat to women. When a man caters, he removes resistance. He adapts his schedule. He adjusts his opinions. He avoids conflict. He says yes more than no. From his perspective, this feels like love. From her perspective, it feels like predictability without polarity. Stoicism teaches us. What costs nothing commands nothing. Catering costs you nothing internally, because it avoids tension. And because it costs nothing, it creates little value. The difference between chosen and served. Being served feels convenient. Being chosen feels meaningful. A woman feels chosen when a man selects her without abandoning himself. His time is offered deliberately. His attention is focused, not constant. His approval is not automatic. Choice implies standards. Standards imply value. Catering implies availability. Availability without limits implies replaceability. Why this becomes a vulnerability. When women respond more strongly to being chosen than being catered to, they may lose attraction to men who over-accommodate. Not because those men are bad, but because they remove all friction. And friction, when grounded, creates tension. Tension sustains desire. The Stoic misstep men make. Men fear being difficult. So they smooth everything over. They confuse peacekeeping with strength. But Stoicism is not avoidance. It is measured firmness. A Stoic man is agreeable without being compliant. What the Stoic man does differently. He does not rush to please. He chooses. Sometimes he says yes. Sometimes he says no. Both feel intentional. He does not fear disagreement. He does not chase harmony at the expense of respect. His boundaries are calm, not aggressive. But they are real. And reality creates attraction. Why being chosen feels safer than being catered to. Paradoxically, a man with standards feels safer. Because a woman senses. He is here because he wants to be, not because he needs to be. Need creates pressure. Choice creates freedom. And freedom allows desire to breathe. The deeper lesson. Stop trying to make her comfortable at all times. Comfort without challenge becomes flat. A Stoic man offers stability without submission. Care without self-erasure. Choice without pressure. The lesson. Do not serve endlessly. Choose deliberately. Because a woman who feels chosen by a man with standards will value that choice far more than endless accommodation from a man who has none. Weakness number 9, attraction fades when a man loses his center. There is a moment, quiet, gradual, almost invisible, when attraction begins to die. It is not when a man stops caring. It is when a man stops being centered. I've seen this happen to good men. They don't become cruel. They don't become absent. They don't betray. They simply drift away from themselves. And that drift is felt immediately. What losing your center really means. A man loses his center when his life begins to orbit one thing. Her mood determines his mood. Her availability determines his schedule. Her approval determines his confidence. Her presence determines his sense of direction. Nothing dramatic happens. He just becomes reactive. Stoicism teaches us. The man who is governed externally cannot command respect internally. Why this is so unattractive? Attraction requires polarity. Polarity requires two grounded individuals. When a man loses his center, polarity collapses. The woman feels pressure instead of presence. Dependence instead of desire. Familiarity instead of intrigue. She may not articulate it. But her nervous system recognizes imbalance. The male blind spot. Men often believe losing their center is proof of love. They say, "She's my priority. I'm all in. She comes first." But priority is not surrender. Stoicism is clear. You cannot give from a place you have abandoned. A man who sacrifices his structure loses his shape. And shapelessness is not attractive. Why this becomes a vulnerability? When attraction depends on a man's centeredness, losing that center changes everything. A woman may feel turned off without knowing why. Lose desire while affection remains. Respect him less despite his effort. Men call this confusing. Stoics call it predictable. What the Stoic man protects above all. His center. His routines. His discipline. His purpose. His friendships. His solitude. His direction. Not to impress. Not to manipulate. But to remain himself. A Stoic man does not disappear into love. He brings a full life into it. Why regaining your center changes the dynamic. The moment a man recenters, the dynamic shifts. He stops chasing. He stops reacting. He stops negotiating his worth. He becomes calm again. Grounded again. predictable in character, but not in availability. And that return to self is felt instantly. The Stoic advantage. A centered man does not need reassurance. He does not cling. He does not orbit. He does not dissolve. He stands. And standing is magnetic. The lesson. Never make a woman the center of your life. Make her a welcome part of a life that already stands on its own. Because the man who loses his center loses attraction. And the man who protects his center never has to chase it. Weakness number 10, women respect men with principles, not men who always please. This is the final truth most men resist accepting. Women may enjoy being pleased, but they respect men with principles. And respect always outlives pleasure. I've seen men lose attraction not because they were cruel, distant, or careless, but because they were too agreeable. They bent too easily. They adapted too quickly. They avoided conflict at all costs. They became pleasant and invisible. Why constant pleasing destroys respect? A man who always agrees sends one message: I will trade my values for harmony. That trade is expensive. Stoicism teaches us. A man without principles is easy to live with, but impossible to admire. Admiration requires friction. It requires standards. It requires the ability to say no calmly and mean it. The difference between kindness and compliance. Kindness is strength with compassion. Compliance is fear dressed as politeness. A Stoic man is kind, but not negotiable. He listens. He considers. He remains respectful. But he does not abandon his values to avoid discomfort. Why this becomes a vulnerability? When women value principle over pleasing, they lose respect for men who always give in. Not because they want conflict, but because they want to feel they are with a man who stands for something. A man with no fixed ground offers no stability. The Stoic standard. A Stoic man knows what he will not tolerate, knows what he will walk away from, knows when silence is better than agreement, knows that approval is optional. He does not announce his principles. He lives them. And living principles quietly creates authority. Why principles feel safe? A man with principles is predictable in the best way. Not rigid. Not controlling. But consistent. A woman feels. I know where he stands. I know what he allows. I know he won't disappear into me, or for me. That consistency builds trust. That trust builds respect. That respect sustains attraction. The final Stoic truth. You cannot be respected and constantly pleasing at the same time. One requires boundaries. The other erases them. A Stoic man chooses respect, even if it means temporary discomfort. Because discomfort fades. Loss of self does not. The lesson. Stop trying to be liked. Start being grounded. Because women may enjoy men who please, but they stay with men who stand. And the man who stands in his principles never has to beg for respect. In love, or anywhere else. Conclusion. After everything we've discussed, one truth should now be clear. These are not flaws to exploit. They are realities to understand. Men suffer in relationships not because women are complicated, emotional, or inconsistent, but because men are taught the wrong lessons about love. They are taught to overgive, to over-explain, to over-sacrifice, to abandon their center in the name of devotion. And then they are confused when respect fades. Stoic love offers a different path. It teaches that attraction is not built through effort alone, but through self-command. That respect is not earned by pleasing, but by principles. That connection does not survive neediness, but thrives on grounded presence. Every weakness discussed in this series points back to one core truth. Women respond to the emotional state of the man, not to his intentions. A man who is calm under pressure creates safety. A man who maintains his center creates polarity. A man who chooses rather than begs creates value. This is not about becoming distant or cold. It is about becoming whole. When a man stops chasing validation, he becomes valid. When he stops negotiating his worth, it becomes obvious. When he no longer needs to be chosen, he becomes choosable. Stoicism does not promise you love. It promises you self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation upon which all healthy attraction stands. Understand these truths not to control women, but to never lose yourself again. Because the man who keeps his integrity, his center, and his principles intact will never need to ask why respect disappeared. It will already be there. Thank you for watching the whole video. I hope that today's sharing about love will bring you new perspectives and help you gain valuable lessons. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your loved ones. I am very grateful for your companionship, and hope that each video will help you get closer to a happy and lasting love. See you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful and inspired day.